Chapter 445. Perhaps because of her status as the great senior sister, Han Shaoqi's temperament was cold, Yi Han was innocent and lovely, Lu Qingru was charming, and Hua Ruoyin was quiet and well-behaved. Staring at Han Shaoqi, Yang Kai seemed to find a bit of Su Yan's shadow in her, his sharp eyes inadvertently becoming soft. The two of them were both great senior sisters in their respective sects, so there were some similarities between them, but Su Yan was undoubtedly colder than Han Shaoqi. Her coldness was reserved for outsiders, but in front of Yang Kai, her ice would only melt like snow in early spring. Han Shaoqi's neck flushed red, and under Yang Kai's burning gaze, she couldn't bear it and glared fiercely at Yang Kai, whispering, "I'm telling the truth, why are you looking at me like that?" Qiu Yimeng couldn't help snorting, secretly gnashing her teeth, thinking that all men were bad things, seeing a beautiful woman and becoming lustful. The tenderness in Yang Kai's eyes and the deep affection on his face, as long as one wasn't blind, anyone could see it. None of the people present were children, how could they not understand? Yang Kai? You don't have to be so direct. Zuofeng laughed dryly. Although senior sister Han is beautiful and we all want to take a few more glances at her, we can only sneak a peek. Why are you being so obvious? Han Shaoqi was already feeling a little uncomfortable being stared at by Yang Kai, so hearing this, her face reddened and she glared at Zuofeng. "You're not a good thing either, you're just jackals of the same tribe." Zuofeng suddenly laughed. Yang Kai didn't answer, nor did he explain, the strange look in his eyes gradually converging, becoming extremely calm. Immediately, turning his head, he looked out of the hall. Dang 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 the sound of hurried footsteps rang out. Dong Dong's face showed a trace of anxiety, and after coming in he didn't greet the others, instead hurriedly saying, "Yang Kai, something's happened, you have to take people out to see what's going on." "What's the matter?" Yang Kai frowned and asked. The others also couldn't help wearing dignified expressions. In the inheritance war, there was always an unexpected situation. Since they had chosen to come to Yang Kai's government to help him, they would naturally be prepared to fight at any moment. Qin Yan's group has arrived in War City. But he was stopped in the city. "They're here?" Yang Kai's expression shook as a look of joy appeared on his face, not daring to delay. Hurrying out, he shouted, "In Jiu, come with me." Without the protection of a blood warrior, appearing in broad daylight was a very dangerous thing to do. No, you have to mobilize at least half of the support you have now. You still don't know the situation over there. There was some cold sweat on Fatty Dong's forehead. It was obvious that when he received the news, he was also shocked. Yang Kai looked at him in surprise. He nodded and said, "Then the Hua family, Xiang family, Dong family, and Duanmu family will follow me. Qiu Yimeng, you stay." The Qiu family's first young lady replied in a low voice. "What about us?" Han Shaoqi asked. "Everyone should also stay and rest, this time it shouldn't be a big deal." Saying so, Yang Kai and Dong Qinghan hurriedly rushed out. As they rushed out, Dong Qinghan blew a loud whistle and in the next moment, the sound of clothes fluttering could be heard from inside the mansion. When Yang Kai arrived at the door, Huastars and Xiang Tianshao had already led a group of people to wait outside. Among them were the 5 Soul Ascension Boundary Masters Yang Kai had met that night. After seeing Yang Kai, they nodded lightly, "Greetings, young Lord Kai." "Many thanks." Yang Kai nodded to the 5 Duanmu family masters. "Yang Kai, what happened?" Huastars asked curiously. This was the first time Yang Kai had gathered people to take the initiative to attack, so he was inevitably curious. "I'll tell you as we walk, I don't know." Yang Kai responded casually. A group of people rushed out in a grandiose manner. How could Qingyan be stopped by someone? As they hurried along, Yang Kai had time to ask. Although she was Xiao Fuxing's disciple, after all, she had only studied the alchemic way for a short time. The fact that she could refine earth-grade pills was already quite impressive. Moreover, with Xiao Fuxing's method of training his disciples, Dong Qingyan probably hadn't even started learning alchemy yet. Such an alchemist didn't seem to have any value in being stopped. Dong Qinghan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If it was just Qingyan alone, I'm afraid there wouldn't be a problem, But do you know how many people she brought with her? 30 people. Dong Qinghan said seriously, a total of 30 alchemists from Medicine King's Valley, half of whom are heaven-grade alchemists while one is mysterious grade. What? Yang Kai was shocked. Even the always frivolous stars who couldn't help gaping. Why would people from Medicine King's Valley come to participate in the inheritance war? The Hua family young lord almost thought he had misheard and couldn't believe his ears. Dong Qinghan shook his head. I don't know the specific situation, you'll have to ask Yang Kai. They came here this time to seek refuge with Yang Kai. As he spoke, Dong Qinghan stared at Yang Kai meaningfully, obviously having some speculations in his heart. Hua Stars Hua was shocked. Yang Kai, where did you get so much power to mobilize those idiots from Medicine King's Valley? That group of people's eyes are on top of their heads. Even this young lord isn't worthy of their attention. How are you so powerful? Yang Kai frowned and ignored Hua Stars Hua, his heart filled with anxiety. Dong Qingyan had come, so his little senior sister must have come as well. In War City, she had been stopped by his brothers and sisters. If his little senior sister had an accident because of this, Yang Kai's eyes gradually became cold as his yuan qi surged madly. Dong Qinghan and Hua Stars Hua who were following behind Yang Kai couldn't help feeling startled, turning their heads in horror. They found that Yang Kai's aura had suddenly changed, becoming violent and filled with a faint bloody smell. This kind of murderous aura gave them goosebumps and they couldn't help distancing themselves from him. After walking a short distance though, Yang Kai's eyes suddenly flashed as he turned to Xiang Tianshao and said, Second young master Xiang, don't follow me. Xiang Tianshao didn't say a word and just stared at Yang Kai, waiting for him to continue. Waving his hand, Yang Kai whispered a few words in Xiang Tianshao's ear, nodding slightly to him. Yang Kai then turned to the 5 Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters from the Duan Mu family and cupped his fists. Several seniors should also follow second young master Xiang. Qiu Yimeng will know what to do. The 5 Duan Mu family masters nodded in unison. Xiang Tianshao then led his own people and the 5 Duan Mu family masters back. What are you doing? Hua Stars Hua looked puzzled. Yang Kai frowned. I didn't know the situation was like this before, but now that I know, naturally I need to make some arrangements, otherwise I'm afraid we won't be able to bring those people back. They dare attack Medicine King's Valley's people? Hua Stars Hua stared at him. Extraordinary times require extraordinary treatment. Yang Kai took a deep breath and calmly said, If it were me, I would rather offend Medicine King's Valley than allow such a large number of people to help my enemy. Besides, they won't kill anyone, they'll just find a way to abduct Medicine King's Valley's people. Listening to him say this, Dong Qinghan and Hua Stars both nodded lightly. Not killing anyone meant they wouldn't offend Medicine King's Valley too much, so in the future they could prepare some gifts to apologize to Medicine King's Valley. In the middle of War City, the group of people from Medicine King's Valley wearing white robes had all stopped. Dong Qingyan and Xia Ningchang stood side by side while Auntie Xiang also stood nearby. From all directions, they were surrounded by several groups of people, and as time passed, more Yang family young lords were leading a large number of masters to arrive. Even though they were surrounded, the group from Medicine King's Valley still wore an arrogant expression, each of them showing contempt and arrogance. Auntie Xiang and Auntie Lan also wore calm expressions. Only Dong Qingyan was gnashing her teeth in anger while Xia Ningchang's beautiful eyes were filled with worry and anxiety, glancing towards the northwest from time to time. Apparently, that direction was the location of her junior brother's mansion. On the other hand, the several groups of people surrounding the group from Medicine King's Valley didn't show the slightest disrespect. Instead, all of them wore flattering smiles on their faces as they bowed respectfully. Yang Zhao, Yang Kong, Yang Shen, and Yang Ying stood in 4 different directions. In addition to Yang Kang's depressed expression, the other 3 were all glancing at each other vigilantly. Yang Kong was really quite depressed. When this group from Medicine King's Valley entered War City, they had to walk 1,000 meters past his house. By the time someone came to report that 30 alchemists in white robes had suddenly appeared in War City, it was already too late for Yang Kong to rush over. Although he had successfully stopped this group of people, the news had quickly spread, causing Yang Zhao, Yang Shen, and Yang Ying to also appear here. Now that all the young lords were urgently recruiting alchemists and artifact refiners, the appearance of such a large group of people in War City would inevitably attract attention. What made Yang Kong vomit blood though was that this group of alchemists was actually from Medicine King's Valley, completely incomparable to the alchemists from ordinary forces. The one leading this group was none other than the young valley master of Medicine King's Valley, Qin Zhe. Although Qin Zhe was more than 40 years old, his old man was still alive, so even in his middle age, he still carried the title of Young Valley Master and was respected by the world. Qin Zhe was also a famous figure in the alchemy world. His aptitude in alchemy was outstanding, and it was not impossible for him to reach the same height as Xiao Fusheng. It was rumored that Qin Zhe had recently passed the test of the Medicine King's Valley Elders and successfully promoted to a mysterious grade low-rank alchemist. The four-petal flower embroidered on his chest was the most conclusive evidence of this. Looking at the others, half of them were heaven-grade alchemists while the rest were earth-grade alchemists, all of them earth-grade top rank. These numerous petals dazzled the eyes of the Yang family young lords, causing them to become envious. With such a group of people, if they could pull them into their camp, how many pills would they be able to refine? How many people could they equip and enhance their strength with these pills? The four Yang family young lords silently calculated in their hearts and were shocked to find that as long as they could supply enough materials, with the help of this group of people, within 3 months, the strength of all the people they controlled would rise to a new level. In other words, with such a group of people, in the future of the Inheritance War, they would have a considerable advantage. For a time, no matter who it was, the eyes of the four Yang family young lords turned red and their breathing suddenly became hot. The temptation of these more than 30 alchemists was no less than 30 naked beauties begging for love. Only their demeanor was too arrogant. Chapter 446. However, those who came from Medicine King's Valley were all like this, each one of them looking down on others and arrogant to the extreme. The four young lords didn't seem to care, instead all of them acting as if they were juniors. Brother Qin. Dong Qin Yen looked depressed. I told you to disguise yourselves before entering the city, but you didn't listen. Now you've been surrounded like monkeys, what are we supposed to do? It's fine. Qin Zhe waved his hand indifferently. My Medicine King's Valley disciples won't dare attack them, I'll just send them away. Saying so, he swept his eyes around indifferently and coldly said, For young lords, by surrounding this Qin and others here, could it be you want to start a war with my Medicine King's Valley? Without any explanation, a big hat was placed on their heads, causing all of the Yang family young lords to be frightened and quickly waved their hands. We wouldn't dare, Senior Qin is too serious. Qin Zhe coldly snorted. Not long ago, the ash-gray cloud evil land invaded my Medicine King's Valley, burning my peaks and killing my valley disciples. Now you Yang family young lords don't even take us seriously. Good, good, the Yang family really is the central capital's first young lord, you've got guts. The four young lords all shrank their necks, not daring to answer. Not to mention you four juniors, even if Yang Ying saw this Qin, he wouldn't dare show the slightest disrespect. Qin Zhe's tone was tough, his attitude was bad, and he refused to back down. Even though Yang Kong and the other young lords were depressed, they didn't dare show it on their faces, all of them squeezing out smiles and apologizing profusely. Although the four Yang family young lords had blocked this group of Medicine King's Valley young lords, they also wanted to pull them into their camp so they could work for them in alchemy, so how could they dare offend them? So in terms of attitude, each of them was more respectful than the other, allowing Qin Zhe to ridicule them. None of them dared to speak back. Neither retorting nor backing down, all of them simply stood there with a smile on their faces, making it clear they didn't want to let them go. Yang Zhao waited for Qin Zhe to finish venting before smiling, respectfully saying, Senior Qin, these are guests from afar. If you aren't in a hurry, please come with us. Why don't you come to my house? As soon as they heard this, Yang Zhao, Yang Shen, and Yang Ying also hurriedly extended invitations in the most sincere and humble manner, all of them saying they would like to invite Qin Zhe's group to rest. Drink some tea. Qin Zhe coldly snorted and said, No need, I won't accept a reward without any effort. Get out of the way, we have to continue on our way. Yang Zhao and the others seemed to have been nailed to the ground, unable to move, their faces filled with confusion. The people from Medicine King's Valley were even more difficult to deal with than the average peak Immortal Ascension Boundary Master. If he couldn't fight them, it would be difficult to convince them with just words. What made Yang Zhao even more concerned was why this group of people had suddenly appeared in War City. Medicine King's Valley had never participated in the Inheritance War. Now that more than 30 people had suddenly appeared here, they couldn't help but ponder over the profound meaning contained within. If only there was a way to pique their interest. That way, even if he didn't invite them, they would probably take the initiative to go. But what could possibly pique their interest? He thought for a while. Yang Zhao's eyes lit up and he quickly said, "Senior Qin, this junior has a matter he would like to ask. Is it convenient for Senior to discuss?" Qin Zhe was annoyed in his heart, but he didn't show it on his face. He snorted and said, "You're blocking my way, so I can't advance or retreat. Now tell me, is it convenient or not?" Yang Zhao knew that Yang Kai wasn't feeling well and didn't continue to provoke him, instead continuing, "This junior has been out for life experience for the past few years and once entered a remote mountain range by mistake. While resting at night, I suddenly heard the sound of a baby crying. Out of curiosity, I went to investigate and found a very strange world spirit treasure. It was a flower with a baby's face and was blooming with 7-colored light." Qin Zhe's expression was extremely ugly, but when he heard Yang Zhao mention this, he couldn't help showing a trace of excitement, staring at him eagerly, seemingly forgetting his anger. "And then?" Qin Zhe hurriedly asked, wanting to know what happened to that 7-colored flower. Seeing that Yang Zhao had successfully attracted Qin Zhe's interest with the topic of spirit medicines, the other Yang family young lords couldn't help feeling annoyed, secretly hating their second brother for being so quick-witted. Knowing that they couldn't use force to deal with these people from Medicine King's Valley, bringing up such a topic was just what they wanted. All of them quickly began racking their brains, trying to recall what kind of precious treasures they had obtained over the years. That world spirit treasure also developed sentience. This junior wanted to reach out and pluck it, but unexpectedly it ran away. "Idiot!" Qin Zhe cursed. Yang Zhao didn't show the slightest annoyance and instead continued with a smile. "Yes, this junior was foolish and didn't think too much about it at the time, allowing it to escape. What was the final result? Did you manage to obtain that spirit flower?" Yang Zhao smiled and nodded. Fortunately, this junior was fast enough to catch up with it and harvest it. After returning to the sect, I made some inquiries and found out that it was a black-grade high-rank 7-colored ghost nascent flower. This junior listened to the advice of an alchemist and sealed the 7-colored ghost nascent flower with a spirit array and raised it in a patch of sand. It was fine before, but a few days ago, it seemed to be showing signs of withering. I don't know what happened. Idiot, a complete idiot. Qin Zhe flew into a rage, as if his wife had been taken advantage of, his face filled with anger. Who told you that the 7-colored ghost infant flower had to be raised in sand? Please enlighten me, senior, Yang Zhao hurriedly asked. Qin Zhe calmed his anger and showed a look of disdain, casually saying, "The 7-colored ghost infant flower is born with the ability to emit a sound similar to a baby's cry. If a cultivator is allowed to hear this sound for many years, it will be beneficial to the growth of their soul. On top of that, this spirit flower can be refined into a mysterious grade pill that can nourish one's soul. What senior says is right, but the grade of this spirit flower is too high. In this world, besides Grandmaster Xiao, I'm afraid no one would dare to refine it, so this junior has been raising it ever since." Yang Zhao nodded solemnly. "Who said that no one but Grandmaster Xiao can refine it?" Although Qin Zhe showed an expression of disdain, he didn't say anything more, simply saying, "However, this spirit flower naturally prefers the cold, so if it is raised in sand to provide it with energy, it won't have any problems in the short term, but after a long time, its medicinal efficacies will begin to fade and it will naturally show signs of withering. Your young family has deep financial resources, so it shouldn't be a problem to obtain some ice crystals filled with world energy, right? The alchemist who suggested this to you is an idiot, an insult to the title of alchemist." So that's how it is, Junior understands. Yang Zhao suddenly understood. Qin Zhe nodded, his face filled with arrogance as he said, "It's not too late to learn now. If you wait another half a year, this spirit flower will have no value at all." Yes, as Senior Qin says, this junior will immediately follow Senior's instructions. Saying so, Yang Zhao's expression became serious as he continued, "But this junior is clumsy. If Senior is willing," Qin Zhe sneered, "I won't go. No matter what you say, this Qin won't go." Yang Zhao was stunned, never having expected Qin Zhe to refuse so bluntly. This shouldn't be the case. Normally, when this group of alchemists heard about a mysterious grade top-rank alchemy material, shouldn't they all follow him around and insist on seeing it? Why was it different this time? Seeing Qin Zhe refuse Yang Zhao, the other Yang family young lords were secretly pleased, but soon their brows furrowed. Qin Zhe's refusal to listen to reason this time made them feel quite troubled. Just as they were feeling helpless, another group of people arrived. The eyes of the four brothers couldn't help shrinking because the person who had just arrived was actually Yang Wei. Since the beginning of the Inheritance War, Yang Wei had not taken any action, but today, people from Medicine King's Valley suddenly appearing in War City had alarmed him. Towards this big brother of theirs, the four brothers all felt a bit of awe, secretly remaining vigilant while allowing Yang Wei to step forward. Yang Wei greets Senior. Arriving in front of Qin Zhe and the others, Yang Wei greeted indifferently. "N." Qin Zhe nodded faintly, his attitude neither warm nor cold. "Junior has a request, I wonder if Senior can agree." Qin Zhe frowned, glancing over Yang Wei for a moment before saying lightly, "As long as you don't ask me to perform alchemy for you, I'm willing to listen to your request." Yang Wei nodded, "I would like to ask Senior and everyone here to perform alchemy for me." As soon as this statement came out, everyone secretly shivered. They had all come here to block this group from Medicine King's Valley with this purpose in mind, but none of them dared to say it out loud. They had all been observing each other and using their own methods, but none of them had expected Yang Wei to be so blunt. In an instant, everyone became a little nervous, not knowing what kind of decision Qin Zhe would make. If Qin Zhe agreed, the four of them would have no choice but to die. Surprisingly, Qin Zhe didn't become angry and instead just smiled towards Yang Wei. "Yang family eldest brother, I like your temperament, but this Qin didn't come to War City this time to help you." Yang Wei didn't show much surprise or loss on his face, simply nodding and cupping his fists. "Many thanks for your hospitality, Senior." Saying so, he turned around and left, his movements clean and without the slightest hesitation. Yang Zhao, on the other hand, heard some unusual meaning from Qin Zhe's words and hesitated for a moment before asking, "Senior Qin, who did you come to War City this time to help?" "No one, we just came here to study the alchemic way." Qin Zhe coldly snorted, unwilling to say more. Yang Zhao was stunned. Study the alchemic way? Who would Medicine King's Valley's people want to study the alchemic way from? Especially since these words came out of Qin Zhe's mouth. One had to know that he was one of the few mysterious grade alchemists in this world. This reason was too far-fetched. Considering all this, Yang Zhao's face gradually became heavy. Of the Yang family young lords who had participated in the Inheritance War, 5 had appeared, but none of them had been able to persuade Qin Zhe, so there were only 2 left. Yang Quan was impossible. Could it be? Yang Zhao's expression suddenly became horrified. Just as this thought flashed across his mind, a cold snort sounded from the distance and a large group of people suddenly appeared in front of everyone. Yang Kai took the lead and walked straight towards the group from Medicine King's Valley. Behind him, Xing He followed with a light smile, waving his folding fan as he greeted each of the Yang family young lords one by one, as if they were all familiar with each other. Chapter 447. There were no blood warriors around Yang Kai, but everyone present, as long as they had reached the Immortal Ascension Boundary 8th stage, could still clearly feel that there was a pair of eyes watching their every move. Ingjiu. This powerful blood warrior was definitely lurking nearby. Once someone dared to act against Yang Kai, they would definitely be ruthlessly attacked. The blood warriors who followed the young lords immediately reported this discovery to their superiors. "They're all here." Yang Kang's face was gloomy, obviously not very happy. Originally, he could have enjoyed the benefits of being in such a favorable position, but now, everyone in War City knew that Medicine King's Valley had appeared here, attracting one enemy after another to compete with him. Among the crowd, a pair of bright and beautiful eyes suddenly froze as they stared at Yang Kai's figure, her heart overflowing with joy and excitement. Yang Kai's eyes also turned towards her, the murderous intent and coldness in his eyes instantly disappearing, replaced by infinite gentleness, his lips curling up slightly as he revealed a smile. Being stared at like this, Xia Ningchang suddenly became shy. Obviously, she wanted to see how this junior brother of hers was doing recently and whether there had been any changes, but she still couldn't help averting her gaze, her cheeks blushing slightly as her heart began to race. Xia Ningchang's shyness blossomed into a different kind of charm. Although she was always wearing a veil and no one could see her true face, no one doubted that she was a stunning beauty. Her beauty was the kind of beauty that was reserved and restrained. Because the existence of the veil was not eye-catching, it did not steal the limelight, but it was precisely because of this kind of half-concealment that it made her even more attractive. Everyone wanted to know what kind of peerless beauty was hidden under that veil. The flirtatious glances between Yang Kai and her naturally didn't escape the attention of those who were observing them. In an instant, the expressions of the several Yang family young lords became ugly. Unlike them, their ninth brother seemed to have some kind of relationship with this woman. This was what it meant to be in a favorable position. Junior brother Yang Qin Zhe, who had always been arrogant, actually greeted Yang Kai with a smile on his face, becoming incomparably amiable. Moreover, when they heard this form of address, they were confused. "Brother Qin." Yang Kai smiled and returned the greeting. He then turned his gaze to the two beautiful women in front of him and said seriously, "Aunt Xiang, Aunt Lan." The two beautiful women responded with a smile, their attitudes friendly. "Treasurer Meng." Meng Muya nodded. Seeing the scene of Yang Kai greeting this group of people, Yang Zhao's eyes shrank sharply. Only now did he realize that the identities of these two beautiful women were also extraordinary. These two beautiful women. They seemed to be the two maidservants who lived on Hidden Cloud Peak and served Xiao Fusheng's daily life. For several dozen years, he had been living in seclusion on Hidden Cloud Peak, never leaving the mountain, but today he had actually come to War City. It was rumored that these two beautiful women were ordinary people without the strength to truss a chicken. However, no one dared to show them the slightest disrespect. Because they had given up their most beautiful years, silently taking care of Xiao Fusheng on Hidden Cloud Peak. If not for their careful service, there may not have been the Grandmaster Xiao Fusheng of today. In Xiao Fusheng's eyes, these two women were definitely important figures. Why would such people come to War City? Was it Xiao Fusheng's idea? Why would Xiao Fusheng do this? Considering all this, Yang Zhao couldn't help feeling a bit horrified. Glancing over at Yang Kai again, his eyes filled with dread. Yang Kang, Yang Shen, and Yang Ying also saw the subtle atmosphere in the field. This group of people from Medicine King's Valley were so friendly with Yang Kai. Obviously they were here to seek refuge with him. If it were any other great force, they could still offend them and use a strong stance to intercept them here or expel them from War City, but against Medicine King's Valley, they didn't dare make any big moves, so all of them turned their eyes to Yang Zhao, hoping he would be able to come up with a solution. Yang Zhao couldn't see the situation in front of him, but even if these people were from Medicine King's Valley, even if he couldn't afford to offend them, this time he had to, otherwise, the situation would only become more and more troublesome in the future. Taking a deep breath, Yang Zhao said, "Senior Qin, Medicine King's Valley has never participated in the Inheritance War. Why have you come to break the balance this time? Please give us juniors an explanation." Qin Zhe's face showed a trace of impatience as he coldly said, "Second young lord, this Qin has already said that this time my valley's people have come here only to learn the alchemic way, not to participate in the Inheritance War. Your young family's life and death battle has nothing to do with my Medicine King's Valley." Yang Zhao smiled lightly and calmly said, Since you have come to perform alchemy, how about Senior come to my house to perform alchemy? All the materials you need can be provided, even the 7-colored ghost nascent flower that this junior mentioned before can be given to Senior. Qin Zhe frowned and said with dissatisfaction, "Nonsense, what kind of alchemy master does your house have that my Medicine King's Valley disciples can learn from? If my house doesn't have one, could it be Ninth Brother's house has one?" Yang Zhao's tone gradually became tough. Obviously he knew that it was impossible to convince these arrogant alchemists with just empty words. Since soft tactics didn't work, he could only use hard tactics. As he spoke, Yang Zhao winked to the other Yang family young lords, all of them understanding and secretly preparing themselves. Yes. Unexpectedly, Qin Zhe actually responded. Yang Zhao smiled bitterly and shook his head, thinking that the excuses these Medicine King's Valley disciples were finding were too lame. Ninth Brother's house hadn't recruited any alchemists these past few days, and even if he had, there was no alchemist who could allow these Medicine King's Valley disciples to learn from. His expression gradually becoming cold, Yang Zhao helplessly shook his head and said, "Since Senior has decided to act this way, this junior has nothing to say." The reason why Medicine King's Valley is so respected is not only because it is the gathering place of all the world's elite alchemists, but also because Medicine King's Valley has maintained a neutral stance for thousands of years. Since Senior wants to break this tradition that has been maintained for thousands of years, please forgive this junior for being disrespectful. Qin Zhe shouted, "Don't tell me you want to fight? We have no other choice. Please forgive us, Senior. But please rest assured, these junior brothers will be careful not to hurt any of your Valley's disciples." Yang Zhao's expression remained indifferent, saying all the good and bad words he wanted to say. First, he wanted to use the word reason, so that in the future when this matter spread out, the world wouldn't blame him. As he spoke, the group of masters behind Yang Zhao all stepped forward. At the same time, Yang Kong, Yang Xin, and Yang Ying also issued orders. The three of them didn't have the same courage as Yang Zhao and were somewhat reluctant to offend Medicine King's Valley, but now that things had reached this point, they had no other choice but to temporarily join forces with Yang Zhao to put pressure on Qin Zhe and the others while secretly praying that this group of alchemists wouldn't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. It would be best if everyone could take a step back and peacefully resolve this matter. The atmosphere in the field suddenly became tense. The crowd watching the lively scene all gaped, secretly marveling at the boldness of the Yang family young lords. Although Medicine King's Valley had been attacked by the ash-gray cloud Evil Land last time and had suffered heavy losses, even destroying the Pill Saint statue, it was still Medicine King's Valley. These three words carried unparalleled weight. No one had ever dared to offend Medicine King's Valley like this, but today, someone had set the precedent. "Do you think I don't exist?" Yang Kai, who had been watching coldly from the sidelines, sneered at this moment, his face filled with murderous intent. "If you want to touch my people, you'll have to go through me first." Yang Zhao gently shook his head. "Ninth Brother, although I admit that you're not weak right now with only these few people you brought with you, isn't it a bit unrealistic to think you can protect this group of people? Don't lose your troops just to accompany the madam and be eliminated early." Yang Kong, Yang Xin, and Yang Ying also immediately glared towards Yang Kai, their faces filled with unkind intentions. Against Medicine King's Valley, they were hesitant to act, but against Yang Kai, they couldn't wait to destroy him. "Second brother, you can try," Yang Kai said calmly. Yang Zhao's expression became dignified as he swept his eyes over the people Yang Kai had brought with him. There were only two groups. One was from the Hua family with two powerful Immortal Ascension Boundary 5th Stage Masters, not inferior to an average Immortal Ascension Boundary 7th or 8th Stage Master. The other group was from the Dong family with two Immortal Ascension Boundary 7th or 8th Stage Masters. In addition, there were also a few Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters and a group of Yuan Qi Masters. Ying Jiao was hiding in the dark, his whereabouts unknown. Although such a group of people wasn't weak under the joint attack of so many parties, they were obviously at an absolute disadvantage. Why was his ninth brother still so calm? Last night's incident made Yang Zhao realize that Yang Kai wasn't as easy to deal with as he had thought. This ninth brother of his was extremely insidious and was good at concealing his strength. His methods were often unique and had a unique style. It was impossible for him to bring people to their deaths without making preparations. What about his other allies? According to the information he had gathered, 11 groups of people had gathered under his command over the past few days, but there were only 2 groups here. Where were the other 9? Considering all this, Yang Zhao's expression changed and he couldn't help feeling aghast. Glancing over at Yang Kai again, Yang Zhao found that his smile was full of trepidation. Not daring to hesitate any longer, Yang Zhao shouted, "Fifth brother, sixth brother, seventh brother, let's join forces and teach ninth brother how to respect his elder brothers. We'll follow second brother's orders." The 3 nodded. All kinds of martial skills and artifacts were activated at the same time at this moment, enveloping the people Yang Kai had brought with him. All 4 sides joined forces to deal with Yang Kai, and in an instant, the Dong and Hua family groups fell into a difficult situation. All the Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters summoned their defensive artifacts and tried their best, but still failed to block all the attacks. Hua Xing, Dong Qinghan, and Yang Kai also used their own methods to find a safe position in the midst of the energy storm. Seeing Yang Kai's group struggling to cope, Yang Kong and the others couldn't help feeling happy, seemingly imagining the scene of them defeating Yang Kai today. However, Yang Zhao didn't think so. With Ying Jiao hiding nearby, it would be too difficult to capture Yang Kai, unless the 4 young lords dispatched 2 or 3 blood warriors, but that would also expose them to danger. Capture them! Yang Zhao shouted angrily, taking advantage of the chaos brought by Yang Kai to turn his eyes to the alchemists from Medicine King's Valley. Chapter 448. Under Yang Zhao's order, many masters rushed towards the Medicine King's Valley disciples. The Medicine King's Valley disciples, in addition to their superb alchemy techniques, didn't have high cultivation, so in the eyes of these masters, they were nothing more than a group of sheep waiting to be captured. Without using any powerful means, many Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters simply flew towards the Medicine King's Valley disciples, each of them stretching out a big hand and grabbing towards the approaching alchemists. Qin Zhe stood in place, indifferent, as if he wasn't worried at all that his valley's disciples would be taken away. The 30 alchemists wearing white robes were also calm and collected, completely unperturbed by this sudden turn of events. Yang Zhao didn't feel the slightest uneasiness. Even if alchemists were arrogant, in the face of crisis, they should have an instinctive reaction and panic, but these people didn't show any such reaction. But just as those experts were about to approach the alchemist camp, the gem on Xia Ningchang's forehead suddenly blossomed with a dazzling light. Immediately, a pale blue light spread out in a semicircle, enveloping all the disciples of the Medicine King's Valley. Many of the masters who were caught off guard bumped into this light curtain and couldn't help feeling an amazing elasticity, causing them to jump back and frown. Sure enough, they were prepared. Yang Zhao had long known that the Medicine King's Valley disciples couldn't be easily captured, so when he saw this light curtain, he didn't show much surprise. Instead, his expression became more resolute as he waved his hand and shouted, "Break it!" If this group of people just wanted to rely on a good defensive artifact to block the path of these masters, it was obviously a miscalculation. This artifact was indeed quite good. But these cultivators weren't mediocre either. The brilliance of martial skills and artifacts bloomed once again, and the light curtain created by Xia Ningchang really seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. However, the Medicine King's Valley disciples didn't show any signs of panic. Yang Zhao's eyes became deep as he stared at the movements of the Medicine King's Valley disciples, the uneasiness in his heart growing stronger and stronger, making him want to immediately leave this place. Just as the light curtain began to crack and was about to shatter, a series of stars suddenly lit up in the sky. Amidst the destruction of the starlight, clusters of light suddenly flew out and transformed into sharp weapons at an incredible speed. These sharp weapons made of pure yuan qi were extremely dazzling. The fluctuations were intense. Whoosh, 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 all of the sharp weapons seemed to have been thrown out by someone with great strength. Countless ear-piercing sounds rang out, and the starlight was dazzling. It was like an extremely sharp knife. pressing forward with an indomitable will, cutting through metal and breaking stone, unstoppable. Everyone's expression suddenly changed, and they all moved to the side, avoiding these attacks that were emitting shocking energy fluctuations. Boom, boom, boom. A series of Yuan Qi weapons were blocked by these masters, but the resulting shockwaves forced everyone to retreat again and again. Some of the weaker Immortal Ascension boundary masters even coughed up a mouthful of blood on the spot, their faces pale. Only those above the Immortal Ascension boundary 7th stage. That was why he was unharmed. Yang Zhao's eyes immediately turned to the only old man among the Medicine King's Valley disciples. Yang Zhao couldn't see through this old man's origins, nor did he make any moves, but Yang Zhao still instinctively stared at him, not knowing why. Yang Zhao felt that the move just now was the work of this old man. However, this seemingly harmless old man also gave him an inexplicable and strange pressure. One move, just one move, without even using his full strength, had actually forced back 7 or 8 Immortal Ascension boundary masters. Just how strong was this person? It couldn't be an above Immortal Ascension boundary master, right? How could there be such a master in Medicine King's Valley? The masters who had been repelled all stared at each other in shock, none of them knowing who had just attacked them. Everyone was bewildered, guessing inwardly. The stars in the sky suddenly converged rapidly, transforming into a single star ring the size of a baby's palm that was held by the masked woman. An artifact! Yang Zhao's eyes trembled as he stared at this incredible change. He had thought that there was a peerless master hidden among the Medicine King's Valley disciples, but never had he imagined that the blow just now was actually the result of an artifact. Only an artifact of mystic grade mid-rank or above could possess such a formidable power. Looking at the masked woman again, Yang Zhao couldn't help but feel a sense of defeat. He was a direct descendant of the Yang family, the second eldest, but even he didn't have such a profound heritage. What was the background of this woman? The 2 artifacts she had summoned before and after were both extraordinary, so who knew if she had more artifacts on her? Yang Zhao hesitated for a moment before gritting his teeth and shouting to the Blood Warrior and Yi Xinro beside him, "Let's go!" Go! Yi Xinro was also sizing up Xia Ningchang, comparing herself to her, but still couldn't figure out anything. Suddenly hearing this sentence, she couldn't help gawking. By the time she reacted, Yang Zhao had already taken the Blood Warrior and quietly left. Yi Xinro hurriedly caught up with him and asked with a puzzled expression, "Second young lord, why did you give up so easily? This isn't like your style." Before Yang Zhao could answer, a person appeared in front of him and anxiously reported, "Second young lord, there's been a big movement in Yang Kai's mansion. 9 groups of people have been dispatched, only Chu Gao Yi has been left behind to guard the central hall." "I know." Yang Zhao couldn't help speeding up his pace, a bitter smile appearing on his face. "Ninth brother is really bold, actually leaving behind only 1 blood warrior to guard the mansion. He's one." Yi Xinro couldn't help her beautiful face going pale, only now understanding why Yang Zhao had left so decisively. It wasn't because he wanted to retreat. With the 4 Yang family brothers joining forces, no matter how powerful Yang Kai was, it would be impossible for him to protect his group of alchemists. If things continued like this, all the alchemists from Medicine King's Valley would definitely be taken away. But that would take time. During this time, where would the 9 groups of people in Yang Kai's mansion go? If they went to Yang Zhao's mansion, would the people in it be able to defend it? Attacking the enemy's most important task was to rescue them, and Yang Kai could easily resolve the current crisis. Therefore Yang Zhao had to leave. Not only did Yang Zhao have to leave, but Yang Kang, Yang Shen, and Yang Ying also had to return quickly. Because no one could be sure whether the 9 groups of people would take advantage of his absence to visit his mansion. No one could underestimate the strength of these 9 groups of people. What's more, the masked woman actually possessed a mysterious grade mid-rank artifact. Her identity was definitely extraordinary. Before figuring out the true identity of this woman, Yang Zhao didn't dare move against her. Almost at the same time Yang Zhao received the news, Yang Kong also received the news. Yang Shen and Yang Ying also received reports from their subordinates, and both of them couldn't help muttering under their breath as they stared towards Yang Kai with dread. Yang Kai simply grinned at them. There was a hint of slyness and smugness in his smile. Where's second brother? Yang Kong swept his eyes around but didn't find any trace of Yang Zhao, causing his expression to become cold and gloomy. Because he found that he had been abandoned by his second brother, his heart suddenly filled with depression. Ninth brother, you're really something. Today's matter ends here. Fifth brother will teach you a lesson next time. Yang Kong coldly snorted and waved his hand. Yang Kai quickly took his people and left. Ninth brother, thank you for your advice. Yang Shen also angrily waved his hand and quickly retreated. The next moment, Yang Ying's people also scattered like birds and beasts. In an instant, the original battle subsided, causing those who had been watching the fun to be extremely confused. None of them understood why the four Yang family brothers had chosen to retreat when they had the absolute upper hand. Not only did they not understand, but the people from Medicine King's Valley also didn't understand. Instead, Meng Huia glanced over at Yang Kai thoughtfully and found that this little brat had grown a lot over the past few years. Whether it was his wisdom or strength, both seemed to have improved by leaps and bounds. Yang Kai didn't try to stop the four brothers from leaving. He hadn't brought many people with him, so if they really fought, it wouldn't be good for them. Meng Huia also didn't seem to have any intention of taking action, so Yang Kai naturally didn't try to provoke them and let them go. Everyone, you must have been frightened. Yang Kai walked over to the Medicine King's Valley disciples and cupped his fists. It's fine. Qin Zhe waved his hand. The disciples weren't hurt. Yang Kai nodded and turned his eyes to Xia Ningchang, calmly saying, "Little senior sister, I missed you." His words were sincere, without the slightest hint of pretentiousness, as if he was just casually speaking the words in his heart. Xia Ningchang stared at him blankly, her watery eyes immediately replaced by surprise and shyness, not daring to answer, her long eyelashes trembling. Hey, in front of this old master, flirting with this old master's disciple, isn't that a bit inappropriate? The veins on Meng Huia's forehead throbbed, his face filled with dissatisfaction. Although he also knew that Yang Kai's future was limitless, seeing his precious disciple's attitude towards Yang Kai, he couldn't help feeling depressed. Did cousin miss me? Dong Qingyan jumped out and asked with a smile. No, Yang Kai shook his head. Dong Qingyan suddenly pursed her lips and glared at Yang Kai bitterly, muttering, "Smelly cousin, rotten cousin, I hate you so much." Yang Kai didn't care and just smiled at everyone. Let's go back to the house first. His four brothers had to return to defend, so Yang Kai also had to return quickly. Only Chu Gaoyi was left in the house, so he couldn't afford to be careless. The group from Medicine King's Valley had originally followed Xia Ningchang to join Yang Kai, so naturally there was no objection. With him leading the group, they all returned. Looking at Xia Ningchang and Yang Kai flying at the front of the group, smiling and chatting, Lan Chudai couldn't help showing a wry smile. It seemed that she had also had the opportunity to build a good relationship with this junior brother in the past. But at that time, she hadn't grasped the opportunity and chose to abandon him when he was at his most difficult. By the time she turned back, it was already too late. After leaving High Heaven Pavilion and taking refuge with the Dong family, Lan Chudai no longer thought about High Heaven Pavilion, but as the news of the Yang family's inheritance war spread, she once again heard the name Yang Kai. Only now did she realize just how precious a piece of jade she had thrown away was. It was ridiculous that she had thought it was just a grain of sand at that time. Sister Lan. Beside her, Dong Qinghan suddenly opened his mouth and said in a low voice, "My cousin, although he is young, has spent the past few years in the outside world and has experienced many different aspects of life. Coupled with his background and strength, he is quite strong and holds grudges. However, as long as we show enough sincerity, I think we should be able to move him. After all, he is also a man of flesh and blood." Chapter 449. When Dong Qinghan's words reached her ears, Lan Chudai's beautiful eyes flashed as she looked at him with a smile. Why did young master suddenly think of saying such things? Dong Qinghan shrugged. It was just a casual remark. Saying so, he began chatting with Dong Qingyan, as if he really was just speaking casually. Lan Chudai opened her mouth, wanting to say a few more words about Yang Kai to Dong Qinghan, but she couldn't bring herself to do so. Looking at the figure in front of her, Lan Chudai slowly shook her head, knowing that in this lifetime she would never have such a good opportunity again. Half an hour later, everyone arrived at the mansion. The house was quiet, with no one in sight. Except for Chu Gao Yi and the ordinary maidservants who were guarding the main hall, everyone else had been taken out by Chiu Yimeng. Yang Kai was busy arranging for the people from Medicine King's Valley to enter the main hall and serving tea. He didn't even have time to exchange a few words with his little senior sister. The people from Medicine King's Valley were not hypocritical or polite, and they didn't treat Yang Kai as an outsider, so the atmosphere was naturally lively and harmonious. After an hour, Chiu Yimeng led her people back. She had taken the 9 groups of people to stroll around War City and didn't really attack anyone, but even so, it was enough to deter the other Yang family young lords. Yang Kai introduced his helpers to Qin Zhe one by one. Qin Zhe just nodded lightly in response, not saying much. The arrogance of an alchemist was obvious, and this was only because of Yang Kai's face. If it were any other time, Qin Zhe probably wouldn't even be willing to meet with these people. Chiu Yimeng quickly arranged the accommodations for the Medicine King's Valley young lady. Qin Zhe still gave her some face, smiling and saying a few words, praising the Chiu family for having a successor, causing Chiu Yimeng to laugh modestly. Soon, everything was arranged properly. While Chiu Yimeng was busy, Yang Kai was also busy. This time, Yang Kai's original plan had been disrupted, so tonight he had to set up some defenses. This was to prevent his brothers from joining forces to launch a sneak attack on him. After working until late at night, Yang Kai finally had some free time. Just as he was about to go to rest. But she was stopped by the Chiu family's first miss in the shadows. "What are you doing?" Yang Kai looked at the pair of beautiful eyes in the darkness and asked in confusion. I was just about to ask you what you were going to do, leaving in such a hurry." Chiu Yimeng stood in front of Yang Kai, her beautiful eyes sweeping over him. "None of your business." Chiu Yimeng snorted and said in a strange tone, "Even if you don't say it, I know you're going to find that little senior sister of yours, right?" "Yes," Yang Kai admitted frankly. "I knew your relationship wasn't ordinary." Chiu Yimeng felt a little sour in her heart as she curled her lips and asked, "Is she from your sect?" "Yes, he's also from High Heaven Pavilion." "But why do I see that Qin Zhe's group is very respectful to her? He seems to be even more respectful than you. She's not that old." "That's strange. Is there some inside story?" Chiu Yimeng looked puzzled. When arranging the accommodations for the group from Medicine King's Valley, she had heard the conversation between Qin Zhe and Xia Ningchang. That was clearly the respectful attitude of a junior towards an elder, which made her feel a little unusual. "There are some reasons, but I can't explain them clearly. You'll understand in a few days." Yang Kai didn't explain. "This should be a group of people you plan to help, right?" "It's in the plan, but I didn't expect so many people to come." Chiu Yimeng smiled. 30 alchemists from Medicine King's Valley, and one of them is mysterious grade. Yang Kai, you've really struck it rich. If this news spreads out, there will definitely be many people coming to join you." Yang Kai slowly shook his head. "There are advantages and disadvantages. You should understand this better than I do." Chiu Yimeng nodded. "You don't want to stand out, but now you're already a tall tree that attracts the wind. What will you do in the future? Do you still want to keep a low profile?" "Why not?" Yang Kai grinned. "Beauty, you seem to only see the sensational effect of this group of people from Medicine King's Valley, but not their combat effectiveness. Now that they've come to join me, it's true that they will make my brothers worry, but don't forget, this group of people doesn't have much cultivation. When my brothers calm down and understand this point, they won't take them seriously anymore." Chiu Yimeng was stunned for a moment before nodding. "Yes, I was also a little excited by their arrival and neglected this point. Even with the addition of this group of alchemists, it would take at least 3 months for Yang Kai's group to improve their cultivation qualitatively. Moreover, this was under the premise that there was an adequate supply of materials. 3 months was enough time for a lot of things to happen. What's more, They also had alchemists in their respective houses, but the overall level of those alchemists couldn't be compared to this group from Medicine King's Valley. If they really calculated, it would take at least 3 months for this group of people from Medicine King's Valley to improve the cultivation of Yang Kai's group, and at least 6 months to open up the gap between them and the cultivator from the other houses. Today's matter could only be said that the Yang family's younger generation was shocked by the arrival of Medicine King's Valley's alchemists and made a big fuss out of nothing. Qiu Yimeng pondered for a moment before whispering, "So, the addition of Medicine King's Valley's people won't have much of an impact on them, at least in the short term." However, as time passed, the role of this group of people from Medicine King's Valley would only grow. "Let's see if they can figure it out," Yang Kai grinned, his 2 rows of white teeth glowing in the darkness, causing Qiu Yimeng to be stunned. Frowning, Qiu Yimeng suddenly chuckled, "I found that your attitude towards me these past few days has been a little different, not as cold as before." "Is that so?" Yang Kai was also taken aback. In retrospect, this was indeed the case. In the past, Qiu Yimeng was too shrewd and calculating, so he didn't want to get close to this woman. However, as the inheritance war unfolded, Qiu Yimeng had left the Qiu family and joined his camp. Perhaps because of this, his attitude towards her had inadvertently changed. "Have you discovered my charm and begun to like me?" Qiu Yimeng chuckled, her eyes filled with provocation. Yang Kai stared at her, the corners of his mouth slowly rising, but without saying anything he simply approached her step by step. The Qiu family's first young lady suddenly paled. Glancing around and discovering that there was no one around, she couldn't help taking a step back, directly blocking her path. In the next moment, a hot breath rushed towards her as Yang Kai put on a frivolous expression, stretching out one hand and placing the other on her shoulder, looking down at her. The distance between the two of them was less than an inch, so the oppressive feeling coming from him caused Qiu Yimeng to panic. She quickly realized that stopping him here to chat was the wrong choice. She shouldn't have said those words to provoke him. "What do you want to do?" Qiu Yimeng's breathing quickened as her eyes flashed. 500 meters to the left, Xiang Tianshao is lying in ambush. 300 meters to the right is where the 2 Hua family masters are hiding, and 800 meters in front of me is where the 3 Duan Mu family masters are hiding. I'm warning you not to act recklessly. Heh. Yang Kai laughed strangely. "What are you afraid of? We're allies, I just want to get closer to you." "Even if we want to get closer, you don't have to be like this, just stay away from me." Qiu Yimeng had never been so anxious before, not daring to look at Yang Kai's aggressive eyes, her body pressed against the wall, unable to escape. "I can get closer, do you want to try?" Yang Kai smiled wickedly, silently and mysteriously. The Qiu family's first young lady raised her eyes and glared at him hatefully, her heart filled with bitterness, but when she saw the sly smugness in his eyes, her eyes suddenly lit up. Gritting her teeth, she suddenly smiled and took the initiative to stretch out her hands, wrapping them around Yang Kai's neck like water snakes, softly saying, "Good, come on, I want to see how you'll have the face to see your little senior sister." As she spoke, she stood on her tiptoes and pressed her perky breasts against Yang Kai's chest, full of provocation. Yang Kai's eyes blinked, immediately reaching out and pinching Qiu Yimeng's cheeks, letting go of her with a laugh. "Playing around is fine, but don't get serious with me, I can't take it." His voice gradually faded away, and by the time Qiu Yimeng recovered from her shock, Yang Kai had already disappeared. "Beast!" Qiu Yimeng felt extremely wronged, reaching out and touching her face. It hurt like hell. This smelly man didn't know how to control his strength and didn't have the slightest bit of compassion for the fairer sex. After feeling wronged for a while, Qiu Yimeng stared at the place where Yang Kai disappeared, a look of loss filling her face. It was undeniable that this man was the best she had ever seen so far, and quite possibly the best in this world. Such a man was more than qualified to be worthy of her, and she also had a good impression of him. Qiu Yimeng didn't dare have any thoughts about him, because such a man would not be bound by her. Compared to being with him, Qiu Yimeng wanted to see how far this man could go, and what height he would eventually stand at, overlooking all living things. Perhaps when that day came, she would be able to abandon everything and follow him, But definitely not now. The door to Xia Ningchang's room was tightly shut. A young girl with a veil on her face was sitting at the table, deep in thought. The lights around her flickered, just like her mood, undulating up and down. The words Yang Kai had said to her during the day still rang in her ears, and every time she thought about it, Xia Ningchang's heart filled with sweetness. Her delicate face was always filled with a happy and shy smile, but unfortunately, no one was fated to see it. Yang Kai had never said such direct and shameful words to her. Thinking about this deeply, Xia Ningchang's cheeks became even redder, covering her face with both hands, feeling somewhat embarrassed. The days she spent in High Heaven Pavilion were the sweetest and happiest days of her life, but unfortunately, those days did not last long. Suddenly, the door to her room opened and closed, and a figure rushed in like a whirlwind. Xia Ningchang awoke from her contemplation and only had time to cry out before she was picked up and placed on the bed. The yuan qi and divine sense that had just been condensed immediately dissipated. Although she didn't see what this person looked like, Xia Ningchang smelled a familiar scent and already knew who it was. Chapter 450. Under the flickering light, Xia Ningchang sat on Yang Kai's lap, held in his arms. Her expression was timid as she secretly glanced at her junior brother, then quickly looked away. Her delicate earlobes immediately turned bright red, small and cute. Yang Kai gazed at her with a smile, full of affection. His burning gaze seemed to be able to melt Xia Ningchang. Silence was better than words. This simple contact had already vented their longing for each other, leaving behind only sweetness and happiness. Xia Ningchang felt satisfied for the first time. Although Yang Kai used to look at her affectionately when he saw her, he had never been so direct and undisguised like this. He still has me in his heart, the girl thought to herself as a smile bloomed on her delicate face. She shrunk her delicate body into Yang Kai's arms. An invisible divine sense suddenly enveloped Yang Kai. The divine sense was mixed with some information and directly transmitted to Yang Kai's mind. Stinking brat, this old man is next door. Don't force me to destroy you now. Receiving this information, Yang Kai faintly smiled. He also condensed his divine sense and transmitted it to the room next door. Treasurer Meng, peeping at your own disciple is very immoral behavior. You should have some self-respect. When this information was transmitted, Yang Kai could clearly feel that the divine sense belonging to Meng Wuya suddenly shook, as if it was frightened. After a while, a strange cry came from the room next door. Master, what's wrong? Xia Ningchang hurriedly raised her head and asked. It's nothing. He probably had a nightmare. Xia Ningchang pursed her lips and smiled. She clearly knew that Yang Kai was talking nonsense. Since Yang Kai said so, Meng Wuya could no longer hide it. He said in a muffled voice, when you have time, come find me. I have some things to ask you. Yes, I also have some things to ask you. Yang Kai nodded gently. Meng Wuya slowly withdrew his divine sense. He would no longer spy on them. Inside the room, Yang Kai and Xia Ningchang looked at each other and smiled, suddenly feeling a lot more relaxed. Although the two of them knew that Meng Wuya had good intentions, being stared at by such a master with his divine sense still made them feel somewhat restrained. Hugging his little senior sister, he didn't do anything presumptuous. He just enjoyed the warm feeling. Xia Ningchang's body was very soft. There seemed to be no bones. There was also an intoxicating fragrance on her body. It was natural and refreshing. Little senior sister is amazing, you've already reached the immortal ascension boundary first stage. Yang Kai couldn't help but sigh in admiration. The last time they had left Hidden Cloud Peak, she had only been around Yuan Qi boundary 7th stage, but now she had successfully broken through to the immortal ascension boundary. This kind of cultivation speed was not inferior to his own. It's all thanks to junior brother. What did you leave behind for me? After I take one drop every day, my cultivation speed is much faster than before. During this period of time, he had been discussing the art of alchemy with the Grandmaster. I've also been studying the spirit array you gave him, so I haven't been cultivating much. Yang Kai couldn't help showing a trace of surprise. She hadn't cultivated much, and yet she had already reached this level. If she had been diligent in her cultivation, what would that be like? His little senior sister was indeed blessed by the heavens with a physique advantage. That, its myriad drug liquid, it can cleanse one's body. Do you have any more? I have a lot here. Xianxia nodded. I still have some, I only take 1 drop every day. I also gave it to Master, but it seems to have no effect on Master's injuries. Treasurer Meng is injured? Yang Kai was shocked. How did he get injured? The little senior sister tilted her head, her brow wrinkling slightly as she whispered, I don't know, Master never told me the details. I only know that he is injured and needs me to cultivate diligently in order to help him heal. Yang Kai's expression became strange. A master like Meng Wuya was actually injured. Yang Kai had witnessed his strength with his own eyes. Compared to an ordinary peak Immortal Ascension Boundary Master, perhaps only an above Immortal Ascension Boundary Master could defeat him. Moreover, looking at his appearance, there was no trace of injury. Could it be an old injury? However, if it was just an old injury, the myriad drug liquid should have some effect. Yang Kai's mind raced, and he decided to wait until he had time to find Meng Wuya and ask him about it. Although Treasurer Meng didn't like spending time with his little senior sister, that was out of consideration for his disciple. In fact, Treasurer Meng had always taken good care of him, especially when they were in High Heaven Pavilion. This was something Yang Kai still remembered. Junior brother, do you have any news about Su Yan? Xianxia suddenly asked. Yang Kai's expression couldn't help becoming gloomy as he slowly shook his head. I've already sent people to inquire, but I haven't heard back. I don't know where she and the people from High Heaven Pavilion went. Don't worry, she'll definitely be safe. Xianxia softly said, stretching out her small hand and boldly stroking Yang Kai's hair, trying to comfort him. If she hears you're here, she'll definitely come looking for you. I hope so. Yang Kai took a deep breath, calmed his fluctuating mood, and changed the subject. Little senior sister, what was that thing you used during the day? It actually repelled so many Immortal Ascension Boundary Masters with a single move. Xianxia pursed her lips into a smile as she flicked her finger and the star ring that had appeared earlier in the day reappeared. This is what Master gave me after I broke through to the Immortal Ascension Boundary, the hidden star ring. According to him, it is a mysterious grade mid-rank artifact and contains 3 of Master's martial skills. I only need to circulate my true chi and divine sense to activate the martial skills inside. Yang Kai couldn't help feeling moved, but at the same time, a look of understanding appeared on his face. He had always been puzzled. Even if Xianxia's physique was unique and she had already reached the Immortal Ascension Boundary, it was impossible for her to display such powerful strength with just a single mysterious grade artifact. In the end, the power of an artifact depended on the cultivator to activate it. Now that he heard her explanation, it made sense. That was equivalent to Meng Wuya using his full strength. How could those Immortal Ascension Boundary 7th or 8th stage cultivator block it? Treasurer Meng's heritage is truly profound. Yang Kai's mouth slowly curved upwards, his thoughts turning, wondering if he should obtain a few mysterious grade artifacts from Meng Wuya. However, with Meng Wuya's stinginess, this matter would be a bit difficult. His treasures would always be given to Xianxia. Others, even Yang Kai, would never be able to take advantage of him. Let's not talk about this for now. Yang Kai returned to his senses and sternly said, Little senior sister, since you've come here, you may be very busy in the future. I'll leave the alchemy matters to you. I need to improve the strength of those people as soon as possible. I like alchemy. Xianxia's eyes curved into crescents. Alchemy is a form of cultivation, and it can also help you. Helping me is one thing, but don't tire yourself out, otherwise Treasurer Meng won't give up. Yang Kai smiled and immediately said, Little senior sister, release your knowledge see. HM? Xianxia looked at Yang Kai suspiciously, not knowing why he said this. I have something to teach you about alchemy. Xianxia couldn't help but light up, something related to those 2 spirit arrays. Yang Kai nodded. Xianxia immediately released his knowledge sea's defenses, and in the next moment, he felt a terrifyingly powerful spiritual energy invade his knowledge sea. This divine sense was enormous and full of aggressiveness. It was as if it was an indestructible sharp knife. It was also mixed with some cold and evil attributes. Fortunately, this divine sense did not attack her, but even so, Xia Ningchang was still shocked. Inside his knowledge sea, Xia Ningchang's spiritual energy condensed into a phantom and tentatively asked, "Junior brother?" Yang Kai also condensed his own phantom and nodded. "How did you?" Xia Ningchang looked at the phantom that was countless times stronger than his own spiritual energy. He couldn't understand how Yang Kai could have such a powerful spiritual energy at the Yuan Qi boundary 8th stage. "I can't explain it clearly, but it's not a bad thing." Yang Kai grinned and turned his head to look around, quickly discovering that the feeling his little senior sister's knowledge sea gave him was just like her personality, indifferent and fresh. Below him was an endless sea formed from the convergence of spiritual energy threads. Every immortal ascension boundary cultivator would open up their own knowledge sea. As their strength improved and their spiritual energy cultivated, this sea would grow larger and larger, and the energy it contained would also become stronger. Yang Kai had seen Shanqing Luo's knowledge sea before and compared it to Xia Ningchang's. There was a clear difference. The beguiling demon queen Shanqing Luo's knowledge sea had a vague and seductive aura, but in his little senior sister's knowledge sea, Yang Kai only felt a sense of tranquility from the bottom of his heart. It was as if Xia Ningchang's knowledge sea could purify the evil in one's heart. Above the knowledge sea, two phantoms stood facing each other. "I'm not familiar with the use of my divine sense right now, so I can only tell you what I know one by one. Just remember it and ask me if you don't understand anything," Yang Kai said. When it came to the use of his divine sense, Yang Kai only had a single soul skill. If he could really use it well, he could wrap the knowledge in his mind with his divine sense, form a light ball of light, and transmit it to his little senior sister without having to go through so much trouble. Xia Ningchang nodded gently. What Yang Kai wanted to tell Xia Ningchang was naturally the true alchemic way. Yang Kai had only glimpsed a small part of the true alchemic way's knowledge, but this knowledge included a variety of magical spirit arrays and the experience of many alchemy grandmasters. These things were worthless to the average person, and even to ordinary alchemists, they were too profound and mysterious. However, for an alchemist of the level of Xia Ningchang's level, this knowledge was no less than a peerless treasure. With this knowledge, Yang Kai believed that his little senior sister would be able to achieve twice the result with half the effort in alchemy, perhaps even to an unimaginable degree. As time passed, the sun set and the moon rose. Inside Yang Kai's knowledge sea, the two phantoms stood there quietly, one speaking and one listening, both very serious. Xia Ningchang's comprehension ability was extraordinary, so Yang Kai had some information he didn't quite understand from the true alchemic way's information, but after Xia Ningchang explained it to him, he was suddenly enlightened and benefited greatly. Gradually, the two of them changed from simply imparting knowledge to discussing it with each other, each expressing their own views and slowly comprehending the true alchemic way. Chapter 451. Yang Kai slowly opened his eyes and stretched his somewhat numb body. Looking down, he still held his little senior sister in his arms, the two of them maintaining this posture. His little senior sister's mind was still immersed in her knowledge sea, digesting the alchemy knowledge Yang Kai had passed to her. Regarding the true alchemic way, Yang Kai had already told Xia Ningchang everything he knew. The rest he hadn't figured out yet, so he could only plan for the future. Looking at the beautiful veiled girl in front of him, Yang Kai leaned over and kissed her gently before gently getting up and placing her on the bed. Opening the door and rubbing his forehead, Yang Kai felt a wave of exhaustion wash over him. After discussing the true alchemic way with Xia Ningchang and staying in her knowledge sea for so long, the consumption of his spiritual energy was simply too great. Standing outside the door was a young maidservant with a sweet appearance. When she saw Yang Kai come out, she quickly ran over with small steps, carrying a tray in her hands. On this tray was a large bowl of steaming hot food. "Young master, you've finally come out." The maidservant looked straight at him and said with a smile, "What's the matter?" Yang Kai frowned. "This is what young Lady Chiu ordered this servant to make." She said it's for your health, so eat it while it's hot. Yang Kai couldn't help being surprised, wondering why Qiu Yimeng was so considerate. After hesitating for a moment, he asked casually, "What is this?" The young girl couldn't help blushing slightly as she whispered, "I don't know, young lady Qiu just said this is for nourishing the kidney and strengthening the yang." Yang Kai couldn't help but feel his face go black. "Qiu Yimeng, what did she mean by this?" "Hee, young master, please enjoy, I've already heated it up many times," the young girl said as she handed over the tray. Yang Kai instinctively took it, but by the time he recovered, the maidservant had already disappeared. Looking at the bowl in his hand, Yang Kai couldn't help but wonder. Yang Kai's expression was complicated. The door next door suddenly opened and Meng Wuya walked out with a gloomy face. He looked at Yang Kai with dissatisfaction. Yang Kai grinned at him and finished the bowl of soup in one gulp. Then he walked forward and greeted, "Treasurer Meng." Meng Wuya nodded and waved at him. Then he turned around and walked in. She followed him into the house and the two sat down. Meng Wuya sized up Yang Kai. There was a questioning look in his eyes. "You already have a divine sense? Or is it the power of an artifact?" Through the divine sense transmission, Treasurer Meng had noticed that there was something different about Yang Kai, so he naturally wanted to ask about it. "It's the divine sense that I cultivated myself," Yang Kai calmly admitted. He had wanted to consult Meng Wuya about some matters, so naturally, he had no intention of hiding anything from him. How is that possible? Even with Treasurer Meng's strong mental fortitude, he couldn't help but be shocked. Although he had always guessed that Yang Kai might have really cultivated his divine sense, when Yang Kai admitted it himself, he still couldn't believe it. "Little brat, tell me honestly what happened?" "I don't know." Yang Kai smiled meaningfully. "It was some kind of opportunity. In any case, I cultivated my divine sense." Meng Wuya couldn't help rolling his eyes. He knew that Yang Kai was reluctant to reveal his secrets, but he didn't force him. Who didn't have secrets? "But your divine sense is a bit strange." "Strange in what way?" Yang Kai hurriedly asked. "It's too strong," Meng Wuya said seriously. "It shouldn't be so strong. This divine sense is comparable to a peak immortal ascension boundary master. You're only Yuan Qi 8th stage. If you really broke through to the immortal ascension boundary, just how strong would your divine sense be?" "About this, I'd like to consult you," Yang Kai also frowned. "Although I have my divine sense, I don't have a knowledge C." Meng Wuya couldn't help but sneer. "Nonsense, if you haven't reached the immortal ascension boundary, naturally you don't have a knowledge C. A knowledge C is the symbol of an immortal ascension boundary master. Don't you have your divine sense?" Meng Wuya slowly shook his head. "No, one doesn't have to reach the immortal ascension boundary to have their divine sense. As far as this old master knows, there have been others who were in the same situation as you. Without reaching the immortal ascension boundary, they were able to cultivate their own divine sense." "There are others like me?" Yang Kai's expression shook as he couldn't help feeling a little stunned. It was only because of the existence of the soul-warming lotus that he was able to cultivate his divine sense by chance. But what about others? What method did they use to achieve this? There are only a few, but this old master knows of one such person. Meng Wuya's eyes flashed with a look of reminiscence, but he shook his head again. It's all in the past, but his situation was short-lived. In the early stages of a cultivator's cultivation, they mainly cultivate Yuan Qi. Yuan Qi exists in the Dantian's meridians, but once they reach the immortal ascension boundary, not only must they cultivate their Yuan Qi, but they must also cultivate their divine sense. Similar to Yuan Qi, when one cultivates their divine sense, they also need a place to store it, and that place is their knowledge C. Without a knowledge C, even if a cultivator cultivates their divine sense, it will be like snow melting in early spring, a candle in the wind, dissipating after a few days. That's why this old master said that person's situation was short-lived. But you are different, your divine sense is very strong, so obviously it wasn't born in a day or two. Meng Wuya smiled slightly, looking deeply at Yang Kai. This old master doesn't know what secrets you are hiding, but I can be sure that you definitely have a way to store your divine sense and not let it dissipate. Yang Kai nodded silently, a trace of admiration appearing on his face. When one's strength reached Meng Wuya's level, it was true that he could infer the truth from small details. He may not know about the existence of the soul-warming lotus, but his inference was definitely not wrong. The place where Yang Kai stored his divine sense was the 5-colored soul-warming lotus in his mind. Since you have divine sense, can you also use soul skills? Meng Wuya looked at him sideways. Yes, but I only know one move. One move is more than enough. In the end, divine soul skills are the same as martial skills. Through certain methods, one can perfectly display one's strength. Only the weak need to use such methods. Once you become strong enough, you won't need to stick to some special martial skills or divine soul skills when you fight others. Unconstrained and unrestrained is the standard for the strong. Meng Wuya's tone was somewhat sentimental, giving people the feeling that he had once stood on the level of the strong. After pausing for a moment, he smiled sinisterly, but in your current situation, if you use soul skills, don't you feel that the power is not enough? Exactly, Yang Kai's expression became dignified. This is also where I want to ask for guidance. Naturally, it's not enough. Your divine sense is not stored in your knowledge sea, it is stored elsewhere. If you use it in battle, it is equivalent to you transferring your divine sense from that place and then using your soul skills. There will be a lot of wasted space in between. All of this will be solved after you open up your own knowledge sea. Hearing this, Yang Kai couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Although he had already guessed this himself, with someone to guide him, the situation was different. Treasurer Meng, do you have a special spiritual energy cultivation method on hand? Yang Kai asked with a wink. Currently, he mainly relied on the true alchemic way to cultivate his divine sense. But if he didn't have pills to supplement his spiritual energy, his progress would be too slow. If he had a special spiritual energy cultivation method, the situation would be different, but such things were too rare. Yang Kai knew that the Yang family had one, but it wasn't something he could obtain. Even the 4th Master Yang wasn't qualified to learn it. Moreover, even if he did have a special spiritual energy cultivation method, its effect wasn't very significant. Therefore, if a cultivator wanted to supplement their spiritual energy, they mostly relied on recuperation or taking pills. Meng Wuya snorted lightly. It's not that I don't have that kind of thing, but on the path of cultivation, you still need to persevere. If you want to take a shortcut, it's impossible. If you have one, teach it to me. Yang Kai grinned, interrupting his preaching. Meng Wuya was very depressed and helplessly said, even if this old master doesn't teach you, with Ning Chang's temperament, she definitely won't be able to resist your coaxing. Saying so, he passed on the special spiritual energy cultivation method to Yang Kai. Yang Kai studied it seriously and soon memorized it, his expression slightly excited as he asked, how much can this method improve my spiritual energy? 20%, Meng Wuya replied casually. So little? Yang Kai was stunned. He had thought that Treasurer Meng's method wouldn't be too bad, but 20% was still a bit shabby. Meng Wuya sneered. Don't be unsatisfied, every spiritual energy cultivation method is extremely precious. This old master knows that your Yang family has one, and the 8 great families have their own methods, but their methods can't compare to this old master's. Their methods can at most increase the recovery speed of one's spiritual energy by 10%. Yang Kai's expression became serious, only now realizing that he had too little access to high-end information and had somewhat underestimated the value of this method. The Yang family's method, if he remembered correctly, should be a mysterious grade top-rank secret technique. A mysterious grade top-rank secret technique was already at the peak of this world, but it could only increase one's speed by 10%, so this method that could increase one's speed by 20%, what grade would it be? Considering all this, Yang Kai no longer dared to underestimate this method and instead stared at Meng Wuya suspiciously. He realized that the more he interacted with Treasurer Meng, the more mysterious he became, and the more surprised he became. Above the mysterious grade was the spirit grade, so what was the above immortal ascension boundary? Yang Kai had a stomach full of doubts and wanted to ask, but after thinking about it for a moment, he decided against it. He hadn't yet reached the immortal ascension boundary, so learning about these things wasn't a good thing. Since you've learned it, then hurry up and scram, don't spend so much time in Ning Chang's room. Meng Wuya unceremoniously drove him away. How long have I been here? 5 days. Yang Kai was stunned. While discussing the true alchemic way with his little senior sister, time had passed so quickly that even he hadn't realized that 5 days had passed. No wonder he felt a little tired, and no wonder Qiu Yimeng had ordered the servants to prepare those kidney-nourishing and yang-strengthening foods. Staying in his little senior sister's room for 5 days was enough to cause a lot of misunderstandings. However, during these 5 days, something must have happened. In his estimation, at least one of them would have been eliminated. Yang Kai quickly excused himself, left Meng Wuya's room, and ran towards the main hall. Chapter 452. Along the way, the people they met all greeted Yang Kai strangely, especially the 4 girls from the 10,000 Flower Palace. When each of them looked at Yang Kai, there was a strange look in their eyes. Lan Chudai also giggled, but her smile was very ambiguous. Yang Kai's expression was meticulous, but he was too lazy to explain anything. This kind of thing would only make things worse. Young Master Kai, it's already so late in the morning, you're really up early. Why aren't you resting in bed? Huo Xingchen suddenly popped out of nowhere and grinned. How have you been these past few days? What do you mean, how have I been? Yang Kai looked confused. Heh, you don't need to pretend in front of me. The Hua family young lord's expression clearly showed that he had seen through Yang Kai, lowering his voice and saying, a man and a woman alone in a room for 5 days, did nothing happen? I don't know what you're talking about. Yang Kai shook his head, pretending to be stupid. Forget it, I understand. But young Lord Kai, this young lord really admires you now. Although I've seen countless women, I've never tried staying in bed for 5 days. You're much better than me in this regard, we should discuss it some other day. Hua Stars said with a sincere smile on his face. I'm too lazy to talk to you. Yang Kai curled his lips. What are you whispering about? Qiu Yimeng happened to walk over from the front, and after seeing Yang Kai, she couldn't help snorting, coldly saying, as one of the young lords participating in the inheritance war, Yang Kai, I hope you can put the overall situation first. A woman is a hero's mound, you know this better than I do. Yang Kai frowned and said, naturally I know. There's no need for you to remind me. Qiu Yimeng opened her mouth but swallowed her next words. She had already figured out Yang Kai's temper, so naturally, she wouldn't blame him again. This time, it was enough to give him a reminder. If she continued, this smelly man would probably fly into a rage out of humiliation. He would immediately turn hostile. Greetings, young Lord Kai. Next to Qiu Yimeng stood a handsome young man who waited for the two of them to finish speaking before stepping forward to greet them. He was also very humble and respectful. This is... Yang Kai looked at him suspiciously. This person looked unfamiliar. He had never seen him before. The young master of Tianyuan City, Lu Feisheng. I told you last time. Qiu Yimeng explained. Lu Feisheng smiled and said humbly, many thanks to young Lord Kai for accepting me. Tianyuan City is extremely grateful. Yang Kai looked at him and nodded faintly. Your surname is Lu. What's your relationship with the Lu family? I don't dare. Lu Feisheng smiled bitterly. Qiu Yimeng nodded. If you say it has nothing to do with you, then it doesn't matter. For the past few hundred years, the 8 great families had more or less had some connections with the outside world. Young Master Lu's family was originally a branch of the Lu family, but because of some matters, they were expelled from the Lu family 100 years ago. If we really count, Lu Qingyao should be his cousin. Lu Feisheng's expression became slightly sad, his posture extremely humble. Those who were expelled don't dare mention the Lu family again. Over the past 100 years, we have always strived to return to the family. Although my father has become a city lord, he has not yet reached the point of being accepted. Hua Xing's mouth twitched as he smiled. Just follow young Lord Kai. If you can help young Lord Kai win this inheritance war, I think the Lu family should be willing to accept you back. Hearing him say so, Lu Feisheng's face couldn't help showing a touch of excitement as he cupped his fists and said, "Then I'll have to rely on young Lord Hua's auspicious words. My Tian Yuan City will definitely follow young Lord Kai's lead." Yang Kai nodded slightly, not saying much, simply turning to Qiu Yimeng and asking, "Has my eighth brother lost?" Qiu Yimeng looked back at him in amazement, chuckling lightly, "You also noticed?" Of course, if the group from Medicine King's Valley hadn't appeared, perhaps my eighth brother would have been able to hold on for a while, but the arrival of those people from Medicine King's Valley has definitely made my brothers feel a sense of crisis. At this time, if they don't achieve some victories, I'm afraid no one will dare to seek refuge with them. As you said, Yang Quan has been eliminated. When did this happen? The night before yesterday. Qiu Yimeng explained all the information she had received. The appearance of more than 30 alchemists from Medicine King's Valley had indeed caused the Yang family young lords to panic. On the one hand, they urgently needed a victory to build up their reputation. On the other hand, they were also trying to find a way to curb the help these people from Medicine King's Valley could bring to Yang Kai. The night before yesterday, Yang Zhao, Yang Kang, Yang Shen, and Yang Ying all set their sights on Yang Quan's mansion. Yang Quan only had one immortal ascension boundary 8th stage blood warrior, and in addition, he only had a second-class force from his mother's family as an ally. With such an absolute disadvantage, he simply couldn't defend himself. After a great battle, Yang Zhao obtained the flag while Yang Shen captured Yang Quan. So far, the second Yang family young lord had been eliminated in the inheritance war. The battle that night was quite interesting. Qiu Yimeng smiled. It wasn't so much that they were attacking Yang Quan, but rather that they were killing each other. The defenses of Yang Quan's mansion collapsed in the first wave of attacks. With the exception of the blood warrior who was protecting Yang Quan, the others basically had no power to fight back. It could almost be described as a complete rout. Moreover, your four brothers formed two camps to attack each other, each of them suffering losses. Yang Zhao and Yang Kang are blood brothers, Yang Shen and Yang Ying are also blood brothers, so it can be said that they were evenly matched. Saying so, she glanced over at Yang Kai meaningfully. However, can you guess who gained the most from this battle? Hua Xing also smiled as she waited for Yang Kai's answer, seemingly thinking that he wouldn't be able to come up with an answer to this question. Yang Kai sneered. While they obtained the flag, they also obtained my eighth brother, but these gains were almost equal to the losses they suffered from attacking each other. What they really gained was nothing more than the prestige brought by this victory. If we were to talk about the one who gained the most, besides me, who else could it be? The smiles on Qiu Yimeng and Hua Xing's faces gradually converged as they stared at Yang Kai in amazement, obviously not having expected him to have such a clear understanding of the situation. Lu Feisheng was also shocked, a sense of panic filling his heart as he discovered that although he had overestimated Yang Kai, it was still not enough. You know? Qiu Yimeng asked hesitantly, how did you know? What do you think? Yang Kai smiled slightly. Qiu Yimeng suddenly woke up and remembered that a few days ago, when everyone was discussing why Yang Kai didn't take advantage of the situation to pursue the great leader, Yang Kai had said that he didn't want to stand out from the crowd, but there was another reason he hadn't said at the time, only telling everyone that they would understand in a few days. Saying it now would only make them think he was being arrogant. It turned out he had already thought about it at that time. If I didn't know you had stayed in your room for 5 days, I'm afraid I would have thought someone had told you about this in advance. Qiu Yimeng took a deep breath and smiled bitterly. You really are a man who makes people feel powerless. And the one who gained the most was still you. Although you didn't obtain the flag or the great leader, and this time's matter had nothing to do with you, you still gained a blood warrior. The blood warrior in Yang Quan's house took the initiative to join us after Yang Quan was eliminated. Qiu Yimeng quickly said, the strength of that blood warrior is no worse than Tu Feng and Tang Yuxian. Is he injured? Where is he? Yang Kai quickly asked. The blood warriors were an extremely loyal group. Yang Quan had already been eliminated from the game, so how could the blood warrior who followed Yang Quan be safe? The fact that he hadn't died on the spot was already a testament to his strength. He's seriously injured and is currently recuperating. He won't be able to display his full strength for at least 1 to 2 months, but I think with your miraculous methods, it won't take you much effort to heal him, right? Qiu Yimeng snorted lightly. She still couldn't figure out what kind of pills Yang Kai had given to Chu Gao Yi and Ying Jiu that allowed them to fully recover in a single day. Even after Chu Gao Yi was seriously injured again that night, he appeared in front of everyone the next day full of energy. Even if there were such miraculous pills, they should be extremely precious. How could they be used so recklessly? I'll go see him later. Yang Kai nodded gently. Can you tell me why you did this? Why what? Why didn't that blood warrior seek refuge with any of the other young lords, but instead chose you? Why were you able to determine as early as 10 days ago that after Yang Quan was eliminated, this blood warrior would come to you? How could there be no reason for this? Qiu Yimeng asked a series of questions, obviously having a lot of doubts in her heart. The storm in the Blood Warrior Hall was only known to the Yang family elders and the various young lords. No one else knew about it. Naturally, Qiu Yimeng didn't know much about it. How could she know that Yang Kai had taken a huge risk to choose Chu Gao Yi and Ying Jiu, who had both injured their foundations, in order to win the respect of the entire Blood Warrior Hall? After winning the respect of all the masters of the Blood Warrior Hall, when their young lords were eliminated, if these blood warriors didn't choose Yang Kai, who else could they choose? I can't tell you. Yang Kai grinned, but I can tell you that in the future, all the blood warriors who have been eliminated will come to my house. His tone was confident and his expression arrogant. Qiu Yimeng couldn't help thinking about how, as the young lords were eliminated, one after another powerful blood warriors would gather in Yang Kai's house, a look of shock filling her face. This was something that had never happened before. No Yang family young lord had ever been able to command all the blood warriors under his command. If things really developed as Yang Kai said, then he would have created a miracle. At that time, with so many blood warriors present, how could Yang Kai lose? He was now in an invincible position, and when the time came, the remaining enemies could only pray that Yang Kai didn't attack them. I suddenly feel some sympathy for your brothers. This wasn't a fair battle at all. Qiu Yimeng smiled bitterly. The inheritance war has never been fair. If it was really fair, how could Yang Tai and Yang Quan have been eliminated so early? Yang Kai coldly snorted. Chapter 453. The inheritance war was a competition of connections and heritage, not a duel between Yang family young lords. In this process, some young lords would gather less support while others would gather more. Coupled with the participation of the Yang family blood warriors, there was no such thing as fairness. The inheritance war itself was the law of the jungle. There's one more thing I need to tell you. Qiu Yimeng hesitated for a moment before frowning deeply. Obviously, something had happened that made her unhappy. Speak. It's about the alchemists from Medicine King's Valley. Yang Zhao, along with several of your brothers, has jointly protested to the Yang family elder hall, requesting that the participation of this group of alchemists be cancelled, especially Qin Zai's. Naive. Yang Kai's expression was indifferent, not showing the slightest worry. Qiu Yimeng smiled lightly. Although I think that with your Yang family's intentions in the inheritance war, the Elder Hall shouldn't take the risk of offending Medicine King's Valley by agreeing to Yang Zhao's request, this matter still needs to be taken seriously. What if your Yang family Elder Hall becomes muddle-headed and agrees to Yang Zhao's request? That's impossible. Yang Kai shook his head and said firmly, the inheritance war is a competition of interpersonal relationships. Me being on good terms with this group of Medicine King's Valley people is something the Elder Hall would be happy to see. How could they interfere? That makes sense, but with Yang Zhao's shrewdness, he shouldn't do such an unnecessary thing. He must have other intentions. You need to be careful. His intentions? Yang Kai frowned and nodded slightly. While you weren't here, there were probably only these two major events. In addition, Qin Zai's group has been clamoring for materials for alchemy, you see. Has the pill room been allocated? It's been allocated and a lot of alchemy tools have been added, but this group of Medicine King's Valley people have their own pill furnaces. Those tools probably won't be used. Yang Kai nodded. Then I'll go give them the materials. You can go about your business. Qiu Yimeng smiled lightly and brushed past Yang Kai. Lu Feixing also nodded in agreement and followed Qiu Yimeng step by step. Young Lord Kai, this Tianyuan City's young city lord seems to be interested in Qiu Yimeng. Since coming here, he's been following Qiu Yimeng inseparably. Huastars grinned meaningfully. Don't you have any ideas? If Qiu Yimeng could be conquered by anyone, then she wouldn't be Qiu Yimeng. Yang Kai shook his head lightly. Why do you mention this? I don't know why, but I don't have a good impression of this Lu Feixing. Huastars curled his lips. This brat is even more handsome than this young master. This is unreasonable, forget it. I'm going to cultivate. I won't disturb you any further. Hearing him say this, Yang Kai looked at him in surprise. He didn't expect this playboy to be so hardworking. It was probably because they had felt some pressure in his mansion during this period of time. The people coming and going in the mansion were all leaders of the younger generation of their respective forces. Starshua was the successor of one of the 8 great families, so he definitely wasn't willing to be inferior to others. It should be because of this that he had restrained his previous debauchery. Arriving at the pill room, Yang Kai took out all the alchemy materials. Qin Zhe and the others looked at the room full of alchemy materials. All of them smiled and rubbed their hands together. Brother Qin, from now on, I'll have to trouble you. It's no trouble at all, Qin Zhe smiled. How could it be difficult to learn the alchemic way from martial ant Xia? Xia Ningchang was now a top alchemist comparable to Xiao Fu Sheng. Qin Zhe and the others usually found it difficult to even see Xiao Fu Sheng, let alone observe him performing alchemy. Now that they had the opportunity to refine alchemy together with Xia Ningchang, they were naturally excited. Little senior sister will probably take a day or 2 before she comes out. You can familiarize yourselves with her here for a while. Yang Kai's expression became strange. The way they addressed each other had become a complete mess. Qin Zhe called Xia Ningchang martial aunt, while he called Qin Zhe senior brother, so he could only call him senior brother. Junior brother Yang, you're busy, there's no need to entertain us. Qin Zhe said casually as he began to study the alchemy materials with the other alchemists from Medicine King's Valley. No one paid any attention to Yang Kai after this. Chuckling, Yang Kai quietly withdrew. Xia Ningchang really came out of seclusion 2 days later, having completely digested the true alchemic way Yang Kai had taught him and immediately immersed himself in the alchemic way. Inside the mansion, countless pairs of eyes were staring at the pill room. In addition to those from Medicine King's Valley, Yang Kai had gathered a total of 11 groups of supporters. These people had come to assist Yang Kai in the inheritance war, so Yang Kai naturally had the responsibility and obligation to equip them with his own means and enhance their strength in order to cope with the increasingly fierce battles ahead. If the pill room produced pills, they would definitely be given to them. Therefore, every great force was looking forward to seeing what grade of pills the first batch of pills would be, what they would be used for, and how many people would be able to get a share of the finished pills. Yang Kai's mansion was calm, and so was all of War City. After 2 Yang family young lords were eliminated, the inheritance war seemed to have suddenly fallen into a period of calm. Every young lord was increasing their efforts to recruit helpers, and alchemists and artifact refiners were in short supply. The number of materials circulating in the market was decreasing, and their prices were also increasing. This situation had even spread to the central capital. During this time, Pang Qi and Mu Nendo of the Bamboo Knot Gang had gathered a lot of materials and quietly delivered them to Yang Kai's mansion at night, fortunately not being discovered. However, this situation would only happen once. The next time they entered War City, they would likely be intercepted. The flag in Yang Kai's hand had also been exchanged for materials from the family, and all of them had been placed in the pill room. However, Yang Kai was still a little anxious. The other group of helpers he had been waiting for had yet to appear, so he didn't know what had happened. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, half a month later, the first batch of pills from the pill room finally came out. After receiving the news, the leaders of the younger generation of the great forces gathered in the main hall, all of them looking towards Yang Kai with excitement and expectation. 11 families, not a single one missing. With the exception of the Duan Mu family, everyone else was a dazzling sight to behold. This was a stage for the younger generation. Young Lord Kai, will my Hua family have a share in this batch of pills? Hua Stars chuckled and asked, if it's not enough then forget it, they will be given priority. My Hua family isn't in a hurry. Do you really think so? Qiu Yimeng looked at Stars Hua with a smile. How could I lie? Hua Star's expression became serious. Qiu Yimeng, you're looking down on this Hua Stars too much. My Hua family is one of the 8 great families. What kind of pills do we not have? It's just that I can't take them from my old man right now. All of you have come from afar, give them priority. My Dong family can also be given priority. Dong Qinghan also smiled and took a step back. His thoughts were the same as Hua Star's. Only half a month had passed, so even if the group from Medicine King's Valley had excellent alchemy skills and sufficient materials, they shouldn't have been able to refine many pills, certainly not enough to share among so many people. The Dong family was Yang Kai's mother's family, so naturally, Yang Kai wouldn't treat them unfairly, so it didn't matter if they were given priority. As soon as Dong Qinghan's words fell, a wave of modesty sounded in the hall. All the leaders of the younger generation expressed that they would be given priority over others. This harmonious atmosphere made Qiu Yimeng feel quite happy. After so many days of getting along, Qiu Yimeng had discovered that the people gathered in Yang Kai's house weren't people who liked to fight. Usually, when they were together, they were all very harmonious. Occasionally, when there was some friction between their subordinates, they would quickly mediate, obviously not wanting to add any trouble to Yang Kai. These small details were enough to highlight the weight of Yang Kai in the hearts of these people. If it weren't for Yang Kai holding such a large weight in their hearts, it would have been impossible for them to be so modest. All of this was because Yang Kai was here. Don't be so noisy. Qiu Yimeng smiled. Do you think that if there weren't enough pills to share, Yang Kai would have called all of you here? It's precisely because there are enough pills that all of you are gathered here. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help raising their eyebrows. Xiang Tianshao nodded slightly and muttered, worthy of being an alchemist from Medicine King's Valley, the speed at which he performs alchemy is really extraordinary. Zuofeng laughed and said, this Zuo is actually lucky enough to be able to use pills refined by a disciple of Medicine King's Valley. It's all thanks to Brother Yang. Everyone smiled and suddenly felt that joining Yang Kai was a very wise choice. Regardless of anything else, as long as there was a supply of such pills in the future, everyone's strength would steadily improve. Yang Kai smiled and didn't say much. The first batch of pills that came out of the furnace were not from the hands of Medicine King's Valley's disciples but were all refined by Xia Ningchang. The group of people from Medicine King's Valley were still learning alchemy from Xia Ningchang, and it was estimated that it would take a few days before they could really start refining. It wasn't that their alchemy skills weren't exquisite, it was just that Xia Ningchang's methods were too amazing. Even if they wanted to learn, it would take them some time to learn. Qiu Yimeng, distribute the pills. Yang Kai ordered. Qiu Yimeng clapped her hands and immediately a few people from the Autumn Rain Hall walked in from the outside carrying trays. On each tray, there were 2 bottles of unknown pills. How generous, 2 bottles for each family? Hua Stars was stunned. He had thought that in such a short time each family would be able to get 1 bottle, but the result was twice as many as he had expected. However, if there were so many pills, it meant that the grade of these pills wasn't high. These should be heaven-grade pills. The Hua family young lords secretly speculated. Everyone took the pills and smiled widely. Although they all guessed that this was a heaven-level pill, they didn't look disappointed. Heaven-grade pills were not low-grade, especially when they were supplied to so many people. This is a mixed yuan pill specially used for cultivation. After a pause, Qiu Yimeng smiled and added, a mysterious grade low-rank mixed yuan pill. Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, we bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, Martial World and Tales of Demons and Gods.